I want to talk about the mind because we all know the mind is like the steering wheel to our life. And the mind is conditioned, and how easy it is to listen to the mind, even though it's telling us things we shouldn't do. And ultimately, we know on some level that if we do that, we'll be unhappy. Now, look at the mind. It's very interesting. We do things which don't make us happy, and then we do them again, thinking, well, this will make me happy this time. It's like Einstein said, you do the same thing, you expect a different result. That's a definition of insanity. So I've done this hundreds of times, or I've thought about doing this hundreds of times, and then when I finally did it, it was never what I thought it would be. It was just an illusion of the mind. It was a desire I had, thinking this would make me happy. So the mind can't be trusted. And the biggest problem that we can have with the mind is to trust it when it's not Krishna conscious. When it's telling us, you should do this, this will make you happy. It's really just kind of playing into our addictions or our habits. So to have the ability to pull back from the mind and to understand this is just the mind, it's not me, is extremely important. And often we don't do that. The mind says something and we think, well, that's me. We don't distinguish the difference between ourselves and the mind. Why is that? Well, the intelligence is being covered, or the mind in its trickery has convinced us that we are that mind. So your mind will say something like, you should do this. And if you don't think, that's just my mind saying something that I really shouldn't do, then we're going to think, okay, this is what I should do, because the mind has now stolen our identity and we can't distinguish ourself or our intelligence from our mind. Prabhupada said intelligence is the next door neighbor of the soul. So because we're not the mind, and because the intelligence is above the mind, the intelligence can determine whether that thought is useful or not. But if the mind can convince us that we are the mind, then it bypasses our use of the intelligence or our ability to stand back and objectively look at thoughts or objectively look at emotions. I was listening to a talk the other day by a person he mentioned Krishna, but he has practiced some Buddhism, and he was talking about just being able to experience, just being able to be aware. Like, I'm depressed, but I'm aware of the depression. I am different from the depression. As different from the depression, I'm always blissful. So I'm aware of the happiness, I'm aware of the depression, but the I who is aware has nothing to do with the happiness and depression. So I like that thought. That's the same thing as saying I'm aware of a thought, but I have nothing to do with the thought. So obviously we know the problem is that we don't always perceive in terms of I am aware of, but we perceive it in terms of this is who I am. Like you say, I'm angry. No, you're not angry, you're feeling angry. But we identify with anger. I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm worried, I'm stressed. No, you as a soul are conscious of the stress, but you are not the stress. You are blissful, eternal, full of knowledge. So we obviously know how entrapped we are in false ego. So when we say I'm angry, we think that's a new identity I have. I'm anger. But actually it's just your feeling, you're observing. Or sometimes I joke with devotees. I say, well, when you get angry, just tell the person you're angry with, right now I'm experiencing a lot of anger. I'm feeling a lot of anger. But don't allow yourself to manifest that anger. Just step back. Of course, easier said than done. But we have to start somewhere, right? So it's the same thing with the thought. Now you have a thought, and then you ask yourself, well, I'm trying to be a devotee, and I have this thought. It has nothing to do with Krishna consciousness. This doesn't make sense. Why do I even have the thought? Where did it come from? It's not fair. I shouldn't have the thought. Well, it is fair because you created that conditioning, which is producing that thought. So that's why you have the thought. And you're going to have to purify yourself if you want to change those thoughts. But in the meantime, just understand that thought is not you. It's a thought that is from a former time in your life when you valued certain things, and now those thoughts are coming to the forefront in the present, saying, why don't you do this To which all you have to say is, that's what I used to do, but I don't do it now, so I don't need that thought. So that's the idea. Thoughts are coming, don't identify with them, and then you can just let them go. The last thing I want to say, super important, please pay attention to this. A lot of the thoughts we have, they come from our beliefs. So sometimes we're trying to change the thoughts, and we can't change the thoughts because the beliefs are generating the thoughts. And let's give an example. If I am a young man, I've joined ISKCON, I've decided I want to be celibate. This is a big challenge because I was raised to see women as objects of sense gratification. So now I have this belief system. Women are objects of enjoyment for men. And I'm trying to control my mind. As long as I have that belief system intact, it's going to generate thoughts about how beautiful women are, how attractive they are, and how I should enjoy them. That's what the mind's going to generate. Because the mind is just generating on the gross level what's on the subtle level, which are these beliefs. So Chanakya Pandit says, see every woman as mother. If you reframe your beliefs so that you see every woman as mother, which means respect, you see every woman in terms of service, you don't see women in terms of getting something from them, your thoughts automatically change. You don't have to work on your thoughts, you have to work on the beliefs that are generating the thoughts. So if you're in a situation where you're always thinking a certain way and you're thinking, I don't want to think this way, you have to go more subtly. Maybe it's envy, maybe it's being critical, but on a subtle level, something's going on. Perhaps low self-esteem, you need to pull people down. Perhaps you're not content within yourself. You're not self-accepting, therefore you're envious. You have to pull people down. So you're not just going to get rid of the envious thoughts that easily. You have to reframe your whole belief about this person. You have to start respecting them, honoring them, appreciating them. And then all of a sudden the envious thoughts go away because you realize, I'm envious because I like what this person's doing. I actually like them. That's why I'm envious. Starts to reframe your thinking, reframes your thoughts. So, important ideas. We have so many analogies in our books, and we become our analogies. So if woman is mother, that's an analogy. That changes the way of thinking. If woman is object of sense gratification, it's another analogy. So think of your analogies, think of your beliefs, and then you'll start to understand why you have thoughts, or look at your thoughts and then go back and say, well, what I have to believe, what are my foundational attitudes and beliefs if I'm having these thoughts? And then what are the thoughts I want, and what would be the belief that would create those thoughts, that would align with those thoughts? Because if you just try to change your thoughts without fundamentally restructuring your consciousness, it's only going to work temporarily, or you're going to have to be a super, super amazingly strong person, but ultimately you're not going to be able to maintain it unless you readapt your thinking. So that's what Krishna consciousness is doing, is readapting our attitudes and beliefs so that they align with Krishna consciousness. So these are some helpful thoughts. When you're on the way to realigning your beliefs, these crazy thoughts come up. Just understand they're being generated by past samskaras, past conditioning, past attitudes, and just let them go. You don't have to act on them. And if you don't act on them, they go away. There's frequency in thoughts. So if you don't give attention to them, they go away. So just don't give attention. We think, no, the thought's there, I have to give attention. You don't have to give attention to it because it's there. The mind is telling you you have to, but you don't. So practice this. Bad thought comes, thought you don't want, just don't give it attention. Just neglect it. You don't need it. So just remind yourself, when a thought comes that you don't want, I don't need this thought. It's not necessary. I'm just going to not give it attention. And if I don't give it attention, I starve it and it goes away. And I will give attention to thoughts that I want. Maybe those thoughts don't naturally come, but I will bring those thoughts in. If they don't naturally come, you're going to have to bring them in. And if they naturally come and you don't want them, don't give them attention. Try all of these things. It will help you. And it's so important in our Krishna consciousness to be able to control these envious thoughts and jealous thoughts and critical thoughts and lusty thoughts and envious thoughts. Isn't it? Yes, it is. And if we can control them, our path in Krishna consciousness is going to be so much easier, and we're going to be a lot more blissful, a lot more content, and a lot more peaceful. Hare Krishna.